Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Barry. I manage the Modeling, Analysis, Predictions, and Projections program, which is in NOAA's Climate Program Office. We are very appreciative that you're taking the time to watch this recording, that you're interested in our program, and that you are thinking potentially of applying to our FY2025 solicitations. And we hope that this recording is a useful introduction to our program, that it gives you useful information on the solicitations this year that we're offering, and also that it helps you get through the application process, which can be complicated. So this is our MAP team. I already introduced myself, but you're also going to hear from David Benson and Amanda Chiachi in this recording. They are both program analysts with the program, and David is managing one of the two solicitations this year. An overview briefly of the presentation. I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of an overview of what MAP is, what it does, where it sits, and then we'll talk about some other aspects of the program, what we fund, the solicitations, and how to apply at the end of the recording. We do love to see questions from you about the program, about the solicitations, about the application process. We have a form that's available for you to submit questions. We will answer your questions anonymously in an FAQ style section so that everyone can see the questions and see the responses, because if you have the question, it's likely many others do as well. So a bit of an overview to the MAP program. As I mentioned, we're in the Climate Program Office at NOAA, which is an interdisciplinary research funding office that is focused on a wide array of climate activities, climate research across the agency. We are part of the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research at NOAA, which is unique in NOAA in that it's focused on advancing the research agenda for the entire agency. NOAA is composed of a set of what we call mission-oriented offices like the National Ocean Service, the National Weather Service, the Fisheries Service, and the Satellite Service. And these offices are focused on providing services, developing capabilities for the public on those various different topics that are key to NOAA's mission. And we in OAR work across the entire agency to help advance the research that undergirds the products and services the agency provides to the public. So a program like MAP, which is focused on climate modeling, is focused not only on developing models, so working with the Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory or the Physical Sciences Laboratory or other laboratories. We're also interested in providing and applying climate models and their data to the other mission parts of the agency so that they can leverage that information for their own use. So for example, MAP has been really key in providing and developing modeling systems to help predict and project the evolution of marine ecosystems in the future. This is really key to the fisheries service being able to effectively manage the nation's fisheries to ensure their productivity in both the near term and the long term, and to helping manage our National Marine Sanctuary System, which is another element of the geography of the United States that NOAA manages. So inside CPO, we have a couple major divisions that are focused on research. The one that's shown here in blue is more of a social science focus, and folks might know about the NIDIS program, the drought program. You may know about the CAP-RISA program, and there's also an applied sciences program in this division and a program that's focused on social science applications in the fisheries space. And they're very focused on how communities can prepare for climate change, how they can effectively use and leverage information and develop social networks to bring people together to create adaptation to climate change. We are in MAP in the more climate process focused division. It's called the Earth System Science and Modeling Division. And we're really focused on understanding the climate system, measuring the climate system, modeling the climate system, and then getting all of that information into active use, both with coordination with our social science division at CPO, but also, as I mentioned, with the mission line offices at NOAA. So our program is very focused on essentially the development and especially the application of climate models. I mentioned previously that we work very closely with the Geophysical Fluid Dynamics Laboratory, which has a core mission of developing models for use across the agency and for different purposes in service to the public. And we help, through working with GFDL, to bring their models to bear and their data to bear on the broad mission space at NOAA and help connect GFDL with the external community as well. So that's a key part of what MAP does. GFDL is principally responsible for the model development processes, but we help accentuate that through some of our activities like the Model Diagnostic Task Force, climate process teams, and other investments that we've made on GFDL-oriented research. So I've mentioned a bunch already about the scope of our program, our core mission, but organizationally and in implementing the program, we do a number of different things. So we fund research that is generally a little bit beyond basic research, kind of into the application space or the more advanced space. And then we do also fund projects that go into operational or applied use. So in the fisheries domain, for example, a lot of our research goes into the National Climate Assessment, which we consider to be a major application of the research we fund, and which is a major NOAA and interagency activity. We try to ground what our program does in process level understanding and making sure that, for example, when we're funding model analysis projects, that they're very focused on bringing observations and process understanding into those projects. When we fund research on climate projections, we try to ensure that those projects we fund are grounded in solid process understanding of the climate system and how it's changing. We're not generally interested in just developing data sets or data products. We really want to do that in the context of better understanding our climate system and constraining those outputs, services, and products with a real firm grounding in process understanding, not just existing in a purely statistical space around climate impact data. And critically, we're one of three functional categories in the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research. We have a set of programs in this line office. We have a set of cooperative institutes, and then we have a set of laboratories. And the programs are generally a little bit more changeable in terms of the topics that we focus on. We can pivot very quickly to fund different research areas because we're not providing sustained base support for federal activities. So you'll see that there can be variability in our solicitations from year to year. We work a lot with the labs to help advance their missions and bring their missions to a broader use, as I already mentioned in the example of GFDL and our relationship with GFDL. And then the cooperative institutes are a key tool and organizational category in the line office where we work between the labs and the academic community. So what we do is we fund grants that are largely sending money outside of the agency, mostly outside of the cooperative institutes, to perform research that's highly mission relevant for NOAA. And that's why we don't generally fund a lot of basic research, because we're working in the context, in the boundaries of what the agency is interested in particular to its mission. So that's the scope of our program, and hopefully a sense of what we're trying to achieve as a program functionally in the context of NOAA. This is an example of some of our recent partners that we've worked with in the MAP program. We work very closely with the National Integrated Drought Information System program. Some of you are aware that we periodically fund research solicitations with them to advance drought research and the application of modeling in the context of drought services, such as monitoring, prediction, projections of drought, and also better understanding of drought and how it behaves, its causes, and the predictability of drought. We have in the past worked a lot with the Weather Service. We work very closely with the National Marine Fisheries Service and their Office of Science and Technology to co-fund activities in the fisheries space. We've started working very closely with the marine sanctuaries activity in the National Ocean Service, also on sea level research in the National Ocean Service. And then we work with other agency partners closely as well. DOE, there's a lot of work with DOE on particularly the projection space and the process-oriented diagnostic space. And then we have worked in the past with NASA programs. We participate in a variety of interagency activities and international activities, such as the Global Change Research Program. We participate and engage with a broad array of partners inside and outside NOAA. As already mentioned, we are involved in US CLIVAR, for those of you who have been engaged with US CLIVAR in the past or are currently involved with their working groups. And then very much think about our research funding in the context of WCRP activities. In terms of the beneficiaries, I think I've articulated a lot of this already, but what we're trying to do in the program is advance the agency's overall mission through bringing the external community into useful research activities that can help advance NOAA's mission. But we're also trying to look for places where we can take some risk and we can develop some areas for the agency that are perhaps new. An example of this is our recent focus on developing a projection service at NOAA, which is a project that we're just getting started with thanks to funds from the Inflation Reduction Act that MAP received. And that's an example of an entirely new potential operational or real-time activity at NOAA, a service activity that's really coming out of MAP and our vision to help advance not just existing capabilities at NOAA, but to fulfill the breadth of our potential mission in the public space, where, for example, the public would like us to produce routine, transparent projection information. Industry would like NOAA to do that. And so we're answering that call by filling in that service gap in the agency and working with, for example, the National Centers for Environmental Information, GFDL, PSL, and a variety of other partners in the agency to do that. So we're working to really extend the capability of NOAA, our labs, our cooperative institutes, our mission-oriented line offices, and to bring the external community, the academics, the private sector, into partnership with NOAA to help us achieve that. So I'm going to pass the recording over to Amanda now, who is going to tell you a little bit more about some of the breadth of our program activities.
As you can see, in FY24, MAP is funding a wide range of universities and private sector institutions across the United States. In addition, MAP funds multiple federal laboratories as well as collaborative institutions. MAP is proud to support mission-driven research. So let's dive a bit into how MAP funding works. MAP research proposals come through CPO's annual federal funding opportunities. This open, competitive process enables us to rigorously select the best ideas from the scientific community at large in support of NOAA's mission, and to ensure fairness in the disbursement of program funds. Our grant competitions fund both research and transition work to help support NOAA's service and statutory requirements. So you can see on the right here NOAA's research and development funnel model that MAP follows to best select mission-driven research projects. In addition to funding research, we also take part in community engagement, collaboration, and coordination. MAP PIs and managers organize relevant community meetings. Examples include the U.S. Climate Modeling Summit and the CMIP6 Write-a-thon. We utilize various task forces as platforms for communication and collaboration between our PIs and the network of expertise for NOAA. Looping back to MAP's specific research focal areas, these include advancing statistical and dynamical modeling, including multi-model ensemble prediction systems, understanding model biases and improving model processes and physics, developing novel climate reanalysis techniques, and lastly, improving data assimilation and monitoring systems. So those focal areas directly correlate to the task forces, which is, again, a coordinated research effort by MAP investigators focusing on the topic of a particular grant competition. A recent anonymous review of MAP's task forces found that participation was valued by funded investigators. Some of the feedback indicated that the task forces have helped to build a community, and we've had positive impacts on professional development, particularly for early career scientists. There was success with collaborative publications and community building, and they have provided opportunities for cross-project collaboration and networking. If we look at the MAP program by numbers, we have had over 100 principal investigators engaged annually and 80 plus ongoing projects, over 200 sponsored publications each year, special issues and collections in journals, and several transitions of research into operations or applications every year. There are numerous community reports coming from MAP organized workshops and other activities that help inform NOAA. So if you're selected as a MAP PI, you're required to submit annual and final reports. Our task forces provide a platform for communication and collaboration between the funded investigators. And we love promoting the work of our funded investigators through climate.gov and other various outlets. Funded investigators and managers often have opportunities to organize and lead sessions at relative community meetings. Now let's get into the specific FY2025 grant competitions. So MAP's FY2025 announcements were published on August 12th, 2024, with an accompanying Notice of Federal Funding Opportunity, or NOFO. And you can see this on grants.gov and the NOAA Climate Program Office website to look for more information. So this year, the announcement includes 2 separate MAP competitions, and each competition has its own NOFO and corresponding deadlines. So make sure to read the specific information on that for each competition. And just a reminder that each proposal may only target one competition. Now I'll turn it over to Dan, who will go over specifics for each of the 2 MAP FY 2025 competitions.
Thanks, Amanda, for going through that. I'm going to talk about the first solicitation that we have this year, and it is on the topic of projections. This is a topic that has been a focus of MAPS for a long time, with a increased amount of attention over the past few years, as we have been leading an effort for NOAA to develop services and product suite in the projection space to complement the service and product delivery capabilities on other timescales and for other topics at NOAA. NOAA is frequently asked by individuals in the public, by the private sector, and by particular industry stakeholders to produce and provide products and services that are focused on projections information leading into the future, multiple decades into the future. And while we have the modeling and the service delivery capability and much of the scientific expertise to provide these types of products and services to the public and our stakeholders, the agency has not organized itself to do this in a clear and organized fashion. And a lot of the requests end up being disseminated around the agency in a piecemeal fashion. So we're working really hard to address that, and we need research to help accomplish this goal. That research can be focused in a variety of areas, including model improvements, including evaluating projection data sets, and especially doing co-development of projection products and services with industrial or other partners in various sectors in the United States. So we are trying to fulfill that mission requirement, and this solicitation is intended to focus on a particular aspect of that, which is specific applications of model data and projection information for particular industrial applications. The solicitation is quite similar to one that we put out in fiscal year 23, except it is focused very explicitly on interdisciplinary research projects and projects that explicitly engage both climate scientists and practitioners from industry or boundary spanners in research projects. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of this solicitation. Like I mentioned, the focus should be on multi-decadal projections of climate impacts that are relevant to particular industries. We suggest a number of industry foci in the solicitation: finance and reinsurance, which are more economic or financial sectors, retail, and then architecture and engineering. These are industrial partners that have been centralized through the Inflation Reduction Act's Industry Proving Grounds activity, which is being led by the National Environmental Data and Information Services and Satellite Services Line Office at NOAA, NESDIS, and in particular, the National Centers for Environmental Information. And these particular industrial areas are of key interest to NOAA, and we have many agency partnerships in these areas, including one that I've been involved in, the American Society of Civil Engineers, over the last few years, which has been a very clear partner with NOAA and is asking NOAA to issue engineering guidance for engineering standards around the country. So these are really key industrial areas. It's not an exclusive list, so there could be other industrial applications that you may consider applying for, but these are some examples. And what we would like to see is, again, collaborations between climate scientists, individuals who are involved with modeling or data analysis, or who are highly trained and aware of climate science and data use and weaknesses, and how to go about appropriately selecting data sets for application. And then individuals who are engaged as stakeholders or as practitioners in the industrial space, or individuals who are, as we like to call them, boundary spanners, maybe working on both ends of this value chain spectrum. And we would like to see the representation of both types of expertise on the proposals. We don't want to see proposals that have only practitioner individuals on the proposals, and we also don't want to see proposals that have only climate science expertise. We would like to see that combined. As an agency that develops its own projection systems and products, we do want to see NOAA data used, although of course we don't want to see it used exclusively in the proposals, because best practices in this area of research really must include many data sets to do proper evaluation, uncertainty characterization, and in particular selecting the best data sets for particular impact spaces, regional climates, et cetera. So we do like to see the use of multiple data sets, but we would ask that you attempt to use NOAA models as part of your analysis activity in the projects. SPEAR data, there's a limited set of it available. NOAA and GFDL are working to make more data available, particularly for individuals funded by the MAP program to do research on projections. So what I would recommend in the proposal is that you include SPEAR data and indicate that you will attempt to secure additional data sets from SPEAR to add to your analysis, but just being clear that we will have to work with GFDL and NCEI to make that data available to you as part of your project. But that is something that we're providing capacity for. In terms of the funding information, we are looking for projects of up to 3 years. Doesn't have to be 3 years, could be less than that if you don't feel you need a full 3-year term, and up to 170,000 per year. Although again, does not have to get up to that limit. They could be smaller projects with more discrete tasks, and review panels usually evaluate them according to the size and scope of the project. So you don't have to max out the budget, nor do you have to minimize the budget. You should ask for an appropriate amount of resources for the work you'd like to do. Finally, just a little bit about the application process. So we have extended the deadline for letters of intent for this particular solicitation to October 18th, giving essentially an extra month to write letters of intent. The reason for that is because we understand that many industrial practitioners may not know climate scientists to collaborate with, and vice versa. Climate scientists may not have an industrial practitioner to collaborate with. So we understand that those types of collaborations may take some time to develop. And so we've extended the letter of intent deadline to allow more time for those collaborations to be identified. In addition, we are trying to provide additional tools and mechanisms to identify collaborators. So in the information sheet, you will find 3 listed individuals from NOAA who are serving as points of contact to the 3 major industrial groups that are identified in the solicitation. And then we're trying for the first time to offer a channel through Slack for conversation. It's basically a discussion board, but very easy to navigate. And there are a variety of different areas in the Slack channel that you can engage with, where you can discuss ideas and interests with individuals across expertise realms. So climate scientists can go in and say, I'm an expert in precipitation. I'm an expert in tropical cyclones. I'm very interested in working with an industrial practitioner on a project. Is there anyone who would like to collaborate? And then industrial practitioners additionally can go and solicit help from a particular climate scientist. And what we hope is that you might be able to identify potential collaborations and discover collaborators through the Slack channel. So please go on there and be verbose, be talkative about your particular interest in the solicitation, because that can really help you identify a collaborator if you don't already have one. And we hope that you'll you'll give that a try and let us know how it goes. And finally, applications are due January 10th. So that's a normal amount of time between the LOI deadline and the application or proposal deadline for our competitions. But it is a little bit later because the LOI deadline is pushed further. So hopefully this is useful information about the competition. And now I'm going to pass it to David to talk about our other competition this year.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name is David Benson, and I'm a program analyst with the MAP program, and I'll be walking you through the second competition as well as the rest of this presentation. Now, our second competition for this fiscal year is the Early Career Award for Exceptional Research in Earth System Model Development and Application. And so this competition is in its second year, and the first year was highly successful. The goal of this competition is to address the need for NOAA to foster relationships with a new generation of exceptionally skilled scientists. This earlier career award intends to bridge the gap with the many available NOAA-associated fellowships, internships, and postdoc programs, and the career research and development workforce that can come from those. So this early career award intends to just bridge that gap where we can focus on the early career support needed to focus on NOAA mission areas that are relevant to MAP activities. So MAP will support early career scientists who are interested in focusing their research careers on Earth system model development and application that's relevant to NOAA mission at large. So this projects for these proposals should be focused on priority topics for the MAP programs, which include advancing climate and Earth system models to better simulate climate variability and change, improving multi-annual to decadal climate prediction system and products, and multi-decadal projections, as well as applying Earth system models to better understand, predict, and project heat drought, extreme heat, sea level change, marine ecosystems, and other phenomena that are relevant to the MAP program. So the proposed work should be clearly related to not only MAP mission or MAP priority areas, but as well as CPO's mission and the NOAA mission at large, as well as societal challenges areas and mission of the collaborating NOAA institution that the applicant selects. So the proposal should take into account the utility of this research to stakeholders and end users. When relevant, the work should include new data sets, innovative techniques, modeling and data assimilation based techniques or reanalysis data that can advance the science. So the funding levels for this competition will be up to $300,000 per year for up to 4 years. So some more information about deadlines. The letters of intent for this competition should be received by email to my email listed there on this slide by 11:59 p.m. on September 18th. And the full application deadline for the full proposal should be received by December 9th through Grants Online. Proposals should already have a working connection with a collaborator at a NOAA federal entity. Last year, we tried to make the connection for our applicants, but this year we are asking applicants to already have made that connection with the NOAA entity, and proposals can scope their LOIs with that collaborator. For more information about eligible institutions, please look at the information sheet. And so for more of a background on the CPO review process as a whole and funding recommendations, typically proposals undergo a rigorous two-stage process in the reviews based on criteria that are listed in the NOFO. So there's typically a stage one peer review panel that is worth 75% on the total score. And this stage one panel evaluates the scientific and technical merit, qualifications of the team, as well as the appropriateness of the budget. The stage one process could also include a mail-in review, especially for the early career competition. And then there's the stage two process, which is about 25% of the total score, and it evaluates the relevance of that proposal to the MAP program and to the NOAA mission. So the funding priority is based off of the ranking of both stages of the review process. So conditioned upon funding availability, typically would expect to fund about a quarter to a third of all the applications received. In the case of the early career competition, we're expecting to fund one proposal out of all received. The final decisions on proposals are typically not made until spring of the following year, so sometime in spring of 2025, depending on government budget processes. So where do you start? First of all all this information can be found in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, which are published on Grants Online and also on our CPO website. If you go to the Funding Opportunities tab there, and even on our MAP website, you can find more information. So this NOFO includes information on program objectives and priorities, the expected number, size, and duration of awards per CPO program, who's eligible to apply, elements of the letters of intent, elements of the full application, deadlines for LOIs and full applications, application review and selection criteria, as well as award reporting requirements. And then they also have information sheets accompanied with them that provide detailed description of each competition. So I would advise to please read carefully as you go through the information sheet. So, for more information about this letter of intent process, we have this letter of intent process in order to provide feedback on the relevance of your proposed work to the competition. So, before you spend the time going ahead to write a full proposal, I'd like to give you a sense of whether or not it's relevant. So, you're strongly encouraged an LOI and strongly encouraged to submit an LOI, though it's not required. You can still go ahead and submit a full proposal, but the LOI just gets you, thinking about whether or not you are hitting the mark when it comes to what we're looking for this competition. So the elements of an LOI should not be more than 2 pages in length. You should have identification of the competition that you're targeting, a tentative project title, the names and institution of the PIs or collaborators where you have those, statement of the problem, summary of the work to be completed, including the methodology to be used and the data sets needed to be collected, an approximate cost of the project, as well as the relevance to the competition being targeted. And there's the link on the LOI through which you can, on the information sheets through which you can submit your LOIs. So we evaluate all the LOIs and we'll determine whether a full application is encouraged. So if we're encouraging your LOI to go ahead and do a full application, it means that the LOI has addressed all the required elements of the call. If it's marginally encouraged, then it means that it hits some of the requirements, but not all. And so with sufficient work on the proposal, you should be able to make corrections to meet the relevance for that competition. And if it's discouraged, then it just means that the LOI does not address any of the required elements, and so it's not encouraged to be submitted as a full proposal because it would most likely not be selected for funding. So you receive our response to your LOI 4 weeks after we receive the LOIs from you. So for the climate projections, it will be November 15th, and for the early career competition, it will be October 16th. Please note that the LOI evaluation does not involve an assessment of scientific merit. It's only about whether or not it's relevant. And we do not give any specifics as to why, because we receive a lot of LOIs and we would like to respond to them as quickly as possible. So please refrain from emailing us to inquire about whether an idea is relevant. The LOI process serves that function. So some more elements of the full application. You can also see that on the NOFOs. So it should include a title page, including institutions, PIs, authorized representatives, and total funding and breakdown by institution and year. There should be a 1-page abstract. And it should have results from the last 3 years of research, a statement of work, depending on the number of PIs involved, data and information sharing page, a budget table, justification, federal forms and indirect cost rate agreement, a CV that includes publications from the last 3 years, as well as 5 other relevant papers, current and pending funding support, figures and references, appendices, and importantly, a diversity, inclusion, and broader impact statement. So some other general guidelines, be clear about what competition you're targeting and what type of proposal you're submitting. If you have any questions about the NOFO, please direct those to Diane Brown. Her email is listed on there. Lab PIs have access to high power computing support, and so there's more information about getting HPC access on the information sheet. And then public access to grant or contract produced data is required as a result of federal regulations. So please see the information sheet for details on the required data sharing plan that you will need. So if you have more questions, please submit your questions via the form that's linked on this page, and we will update the FAQ section below with responses as quickly as possible. Thanks so much for your interest in the MAP competitions this year, and all the best in your application.